since I was little, I just wanted to kick a football, and it was buttball. It wasn't football because I couldn't say it, and it was buttball. So ever since I was young, I've just wanted to kick a ball around. And then for me, growing up, there was a Sunday league, well, not the Sunday league, it's a local side here called Ribble Wanderers in Leyland.
Right.
And I started training with them, but they were a year above me because I was too young to actually join a club. But my dad was like, oh, well, he wants to join a club, or we want to get him in a club. So I joined and trained with Ribble Wanderers for a bit. And then I played in a few like summer tournaments for them. And in the team was Phil Jones as well. So there was me and him both playing a year above ourselves when we were kids with this team. And then we went into summer tournaments, and I got picked up by Everton at the time. They pulled my parents over and said, oh, we like the look of your son. Can he come in for some trials? At the time, I was 7 maybe, 6 or 7. So I was young, like. And then went there, and to be honest, I had a great time at Everton. I was there until I was 15, so 7, 8 years.
Okay, what do you think? What did you learn at Everton? Sort of like what kind of club was it? What kind of qualities did they try and instill as you? So from a young player, obviously growing and merging a performer.
At the time, it was. Obviously, everyone's learning the game differently. There's different positions, and then you were learning different things from the game. And I played with some great players in that team. Some of the lads now have gone on to bigger and better things. And we had an unbelievable side when I was growing up. So for me, it was a good team spirit. It was not to be big time because we didn't have any of them in our team. Because there's a lot growing up who think they've made it because, oh, I'm at Everton, or I'm at Man City, or I'm at Man United, or I'm at anywhere like that. People think, oh, I've made it. But for us, it was just we were a good squad, and we didn't have anyone like that. We had a couple of lads who played years above themselves, but then they come back to training with us, and it didn't show that they were arrogant in any way, or it was, well, you're back with us, you're training with us, and that's how it is.
Who's probably the biggest name or career or profile that probably emerged from that team then?
From our team, it was, well, you've got Adam Forshaw, who's at Leeds, played for Middlesbrough in the Prem. Then you've got John Nolan, who's now at Ipswich. We had Jose Baxter, who at the time was unplayable. He was ridiculous. And he played in the league and has now gone on to play in America. He's over in the States now.
Never really fulfilled his potential, did he really, as a player?
No, as a kid, he was unbelievable. And then I think to be honest, I think he hung around with the wrong crowd, which then obviously has come out with him failing drugs tests and things like that, which doesn't help anyone's career. So he then has now gone to America. Who else do we have? We had a few. Connell Rawlinson. He's been playing at Port Vale, but he's now at Notts County. So another professional.
Where did you go from Everton then? So where did you go next?
So I got released at 15 because I was too small and I was a left back at the time. So I was just a little bit taller than you at 15. And then I went to PNE, Preston.
Preston.
I enjoyed Preston. I had a year at Preston with the under-16s, and it came to Christmas time, and they were saying whether they were going to offer out scholarships or you were getting released. And it came to the night where they told all the lads apart from 2. And the 2 that they didn't tell was myself and Jamie Proctor. And they said, look, we want to look at you for a couple more weeks. Myself was because the left back who was in the youth team had been injured all year. So they're trying to work out if his first year, because he hadn't played a game, counted as one of his years for his YT. And if it didn't count, they weren't going to take me. But if it counted, they were going to take me. So for me, it was a bit of a frustrating time. You're in limbo. You don't know what's happening. So I'm still playing for the 16s at this time and trying my hardest. But unfortunately, they found out that he was still, it didn't count as his first year. So he could have started his first year when it was meant to be my first year. And again, they used I'm a bit small, which at the time I wasn't the tallest. And it's difficult to wear that when you're 16 and you think I've been doing well, but you're not tall enough. I mean, looking at the best players in the world at the moment, like Messi, for instance, he's not tall. But again, that's just the way football is, and that's what they said.
A little bit unlucky, I suppose, because if you look at, that's football sometimes, because if you look at Jamie Proctor on the other hand,
he did
was in the same.
Yeah.
He got something, and he ended up playing in the first team, and still a professional footballer now. So
yeah, he got to Swansea and everything, didn't he? So it was just
sometimes needs to go for you a little bit.
Yeah.
So obviously from there you came to Myerscough. So why did you pick Myerscough? What was it that?
I'll be completely honest. I wasn't going to come.
Right.
I'd looked at Myerscough College in closer to home because that's where my mates were going. And then I had one mate, Walshy. You might remember Walshy, ginger lad. And he rung me and was like, "Oh, I've just seen this course advertised at Myerscough College for football. I'm going to go and try that." And as soon as I heard that, I was like, "Wait a minute! You can go to college and learn about football." And he was like, "Yeah." And I was in my head, I couldn't get it round. Like I was like, "That's an absolute no-brainer." Like I was going to go to Myerscough and learn about sports science. I mean, no thanks. So so he said that to me, and it was just in time for me to apply to the course. So I applied, I got accepted, and that's what drove me there, to be honest. Just if he hadn't said anything, I don't know where I'd have been. I don't know what I'd have been doing. I'd have probably just gone to Myerscough.
So I suppose the idea of something like this today is to try and promote the college, promote 100%. The opportunities, kind of stuff, really. So that it's interesting that you actually say that. So tell me about life at Myerscough then. So what was it like? How did you find it? Tell me about some of the lessons, the coaching, the staff, all that kind of stuff. Basically, experiences at college and
yeah, for me, it was coming in as a 16-year-old little lad. I was still small at the time, really, little skinny fella, and then I got put straight into the academy side with Brownie and Gaz were the managers at the time, and I got put in first year. I was thinking, well, I'm playing with these like big lads now. Like some of them were 2 years older than me. So you had Connie, for instance, Tim, Collins. So they were all 2 years above me, bigger lads. And I was thinking, right, well, you've got to do a job here. And thankfully, that first season, I did well. I played left back up until the final, where Phil decided to put me at centre half, which I enjoyed. But it was just out of the blue. He swapped me and Tim Percival round and put him back to left back and me centre half. Unfortunately, we lost the game. But that season, I got voted players' player and managers' player in my first year at the college. And
didn't bad then, winning those awards and getting to a national final. That's not bad, is it?
We had a great first season. And like you said, with the academic side, it came hand in hand. If you didn't do your college work, you weren't allowed to train. So for me, it was I didn't go there thinking, oh, I'm going to play football. Well, I wanted to go there and play football all the time. But when you get there, it's you're playing football in the morning, you're training, but then you've got to do your work. If you don't do your work, you're then not training the next day.
So how do you think college helped you then in terms of sort of on the pitch, so technically, tactically, physically, in terms of obviously, you will obviously have grown, but in terms of filling out and stronger, and then last thing really, the sort of mentality side of it.
Yeah, there's a bit of everything really, because obviously you did all the tech and tack stuff. You learned about the rules. You thought you knew all the rules in football, but there was some that I learned when I was doing the tech and tack and different things, and into the coaching. To be honest, you look from a different perspective of it. Now, playing football to me was playing football, But when you stand back and look from the sides and watch people, you can see different things, which brought pictures to me that I could then try if I got onto the pitch. So for me, it was an eye-opener with everything, really. There was all the, I can't remember what the actual part was called, but the gambling and drinking side. So that
kind of module, that kind of
one. And that was something that I'd never really thought of, because, all right, yeah, I was getting to the age where it was legal to drink and stuff and go out, but I never really drunk anyway. And I still really don't really now. So for me, it wasn't I'm going to get caught up in the drink or the gambling. But it was something that I learned that helped me, because when it came to that point of, right, now I can gamble. Right, what did I learn? Don't, all these people who lost their money from gambling, don't do that. Do you know what I mean? It was a learning curve for me that I could look back on when I got to that point.
So what would you say your standout memories of playing for Myerscough teams? What would you say that the highlights were?
Well, for me, Myerscough took me to all different levels, really. I'd been away when I was younger with Everton to different tournaments and things like that. But to go to Portugal, it was the first year that they'd set up the link with Academica. That was, for me, unbelievable. It was in my first year again. We played at the stadium against their B-side. They were unbelievable. It was honestly a joke. But it was an eye-opener, because we trained at their first team training ground. We slept at the training ground. So you were with their first team players for a full week. Then we also played a couple of other teams over there. So that was just the 1 year. The next year we played against Sporting Lisbon. We played against other teams. So it was, for me, them experiences and made me better. And to be honest, the links that they had with clubs as well.
Yeah, got lots of opportunity, I suppose. The pathway at the time, we were linked in with Chorley FC. So I think, if I remember correctly, maybe you were still 16, or maybe 17.
16. I was 17 in July, so the season had finished when I turned 17, so I was still 16.
So technically you were 16. So obviously, you did really well in that initial first part of the course and on the pitch and all that kind of thing. And you got an opportunity to play in what was a pathway at the time. So Chorley FC, who played in the Evo Sticks or Northern Premier League. What was that like?
Well, at the time, I'd been for playing some of the season because Tomo was the manager of the reserves. So Tomo had been taking us everywhere. We'd been to Workington. We'd been all over. And the Resis was based, not the college team, but a lot of the college lads. So it was the lads you were training with every day were playing for Chorley Resis, which for me was good because I knew how everyone played anyway. So it was just more learning. And then coming towards the end of the season, I don't know what happened to the first team left back, but I got a phone call from Phil Brown asking if I was available on Saturday. And I was thinking, yeah, like, why? And he was like, oh no, you're playing for the first team on Saturday, like you're going to start. And for 16, I'm from Chorley. So it was a bit like, right then, now what do I do? That was my first taste of men's football. And all right, I went into it, and Phil was the assistant at the time. I'm sure you were there as well. You were playing right back. It was a man's team. So as a 16-year-old going into that, I was a bit like, right, what do I do now? 16 little guy with not much weight about me. I needed to toughen up, and thankfully that the pathway that Myerscough gave me probably made me the player I am now.
I suppose the thing, obviously at the time, obviously I was playing as well. The thing that stood out for me was the temperament that you had. So I very quickly realised that you were never fazed by anything, and you handled everything with real ease and composure. And I remember thinking at the time, that's probably the platform to allow you to go on to to obviously bigger and better things because of those kind of qualities, really. So obviously that was a learning curve for you, I suppose. And then obviously from there, the college program and Link moved to Lancaster, which is obviously where you went and played next.
Yeah.
What was that like moving there?
To be honest, it was quite tough because 16, I'd just got into Chorley first team, and Phil and Tony, the manager at the time, were saying, right, we're going to go to Lancaster. We want you to come with us. Obviously, I was still in my first year at college, so Phil was the manager of the college team. So I was a bit like, well, Chorley's like where I'm from. My granddad can walk to the stadium. It's at his house. So I'm then moving to Lancaster, which at the time seemed miles away. But for me, I think it was better for me to do it because Phil Brownie could measure when I played, how long I played. I wasn't playing every minute of every game, which for me was good because if you said to me, Alex, you're playing every day of the week, I would have at that time. But it probably would have burnt me out or probably would have picked up injuries. I'd have wanted to play every minute of it. I still want to play every minute of every game. But I think the way that they managed me at the time was good because it was, you're playing this, but you're not playing tomorrow, or you're playing half a game.
You probably played in a different team as well, didn't you?
At Lancaster?
Yeah.
Well, to be honest,
the players and the mentality and all that kind of stuff.
The first year was a learning curve again because at Lancaster I didn't really play. So I'd gone from playing at Chorley towards the end of the season, getting my taste of men's football, to being the goalkeeper warmer-upper. So I spent a full year warming up Martin Fearon. Because we had an experienced back four, which was yourself, Stringy, someone else, and Marshy. So Marshy, Teague, yeah, it was Teague first year, and then Marshy. So for me, you were, well, then three are tall, and there was you, all with experience, but all big lads with experience. The age helped, so for me, it was tough to get into that as a left back. Marshy was a local lad. So it was, for me, it was an eye-opener because I went and I'd been playing first-team football, but then I didn't. So I was getting frustrated. I was not frustrated because I was still only 17, but I wanted to play men's football, whereas I was back to playing reserves.
Probably a good experience for you, though, a learning curve for you.
Oh, definitely, because that year we got to the playoff final.
I know, yes. I suppose sometimes you got to bide your time and wait for opportunities and all that kind of stuff. So I suppose it's probably a good learning curve for you. And obviously, the majority of your development was taking place at Myerscough on the pitch every day, Monday to Friday. The Lancaster trolley parts, they were extras, really, weren't they? They the rewards and the opportunities, I suppose, for everything that was done Monday to Friday, whether that was on the pitch, in a gym, or whatever it might be. So, so for anybody who's listening, the bread and butter, the work is done every day, and then obviously the external rewards and opportunities are kind of earned, really. So I think
there's another part. When we were at Chorley for my first year, Adam Farrell hadn't done his work, so Brownie didn't let him play for the first team at Chorley. Now, all right, you can see that as wait a minute, he's playing for Chorley away from Myerscough, but it was linked. He was a Myerscough student, so if he hadn't done his work, he wasn't playing.
Yeah.
So it was, you had to, not you had to, but you wanted to do your work because you wanted to play on the Saturday or the Wednesdays or whenever it was. We had floodlit games Tuesdays and stuff like that. So you wanted to get your work done so you could play.
So from there, obviously, you got an opportunity at Stockport. So you were still at Myerscough. You'd finished your level 3 program. You started your university course, your sports coaching degree, and you got an opportunity at Stockport. So tell me how it kind of came about, and then tell me what it was like at Stockport and the experiences and the opportunities and all that kind of stuff.
So it came about, I'd had 3 years at Lancaster, and in the third and final year, Tony, the manager, was saying, Alex, I think you can play centre mid. So he moved me from left back into centre mid, which for me was a bit like, wait a minute, I've always played over there. Now I'm in here, why? But for me, it was probably the best thing that's happened to me, because would I have been where I am now playing left back? I don't know. Hopefully, but you don't know. But he moved me into centre midfield. I started then getting forward a little bit more. I think I scored 6 or 7 in that season from midfield, and I'm not shy of a tackle. I never will be. So for me, it was I put my foot in. I won my headed challenges because, again, like I mentioned before, I don't mind heading the football. And I just, in a way, I did the ugly side, which allowed then at the time, I think it could have been Rob Wilson that was playing centre mid next to me, who's a pretty footballer, to do the other stuff.
Yeah.
So it was, for me, it was that season that kicked me on. And then Stockport came watching, and at the time, after Christmas, they took Dan Hattersley. He was the striker at Lancaster, who also came from Myerscough, student. So Stockport took him after Christmas, and they'd said to me that they'd been looking at me, but I'm under contract. So at Lancaster at the time, I was in contract, and Stockport didn't want to pay, which was understandable. So they'd said to me, look, we'll keep in touch, we'll keep watching you, we might come back in the summer. So Danny went there, and to be honest with Danny, he couldn't stop scoring for him since after Christmas. He scored some big goals for them, he was on fire. So then when it come to the summer, Alan Lord, who used to be a tutor at Myerscough, he was at Myerscough, rung myself and said, look, I've been speaking to the manager, Jim Gannon. He likes you, he wants you in, but his only problem is that at the moment, your body fat's too high. That's without them doing all the caliper checks and all that sort of stuff. I'd had an injury at Lancaster, and I broke and dislocated all my wrist. I've still got the scars. So I was out for a long time. I couldn't run. I couldn't do anything. So to be honest, I put the pounds on. And I was still trying to lose it then, but it was difficult. So they said to me, look, if you want to come in, there's a contract for you, but you've got to get to this weight or this body fat. We want to see improvement before we take you in. So Lordy was brilliant with me. We met at Myerscough on the AstroTurf, and he'd set up running drills for me. He'd get me running every day. So he was the assistant at Stockport, helping me to get in the team, because he thankfully he could see what he thought was potential in me. So he was like, right, I'm going to get you there. I want to get you there. I'm going to help you. So he did, and he was brilliant. We were doing box-to-box runs. We were doing these 3-2-1s, which are disgusting, by the way. And we did all kinds of runs. So I then went into Stockport, and the manager was like, right, you've had a go. So let's look at how you get on and blah, blah, blah. And I had a good season there. It was a strange season, very strange season at Stockport. I think we went through 4 managers in the 1 year. There was ownership problems, so it was getting taken over. And unfortunately, we ended up getting relegated from the conference. But going into full-time football was unbelievable. Now, I'd had the taste, obviously, at Myerscough, training in the morning. But then at Stockport, I didn't have the college work in the afternoon. So you train in the morning, and then you're on the PlayStation at 2 o'clock. It was great. But for me, that was another part of learning, because I'd seen lots in that changing room. There was lads who weren't getting it. Football's wrong in many reasons, but there was lads who weren't getting picked because they were on too much money. So it was a bit toxic in the changing room. It was a bit of a strange situation to be in, to be honest, at Stockport. But it was something that, again, helped me. And I'd gone through a few managers, and there was different problems. And one manager came in, and he wasn't English. I'd played near enough every game, and he came in, and his first game I didn't start. So I was a bit like, why am I not starting here? I've played near enough every game, and I've been doing all right, to be honest. I think I'd scored like 3 goals. So I went and knocked on his door and said, "Hey, I'm just wondering why I'm not starting tomorrow." And his response was, "Oh, me not pick the team." And I was like, "But you're the manager." So for me, it was like it had come from upstairs. It had come from like these new owners who had then brought in loads of loanees and just gone, right, he's not playing. So then I was annoyed, and thankfully I came on that game and did well. But it was again an eye opener to different things in football. And like we'd said earlier, that this time I could then go and drink, I could go and gamble. So when I was saying I was on the PlayStation at 2:00, I'd seen lads who would go to the casino at that point.
Yeah.
2:00 in the afternoon. I mean, why would you do that? So for me, I'd learnt it at Myerscough, and it was a great platform for me to then go, well, then I've learnt about it. They're losing money. Why would I go do that?
Those principles, which is good, really. How did you find the jump in terms of standard of football to the level?
That was difficult, to be honest. The first few games I was struggling, and something I'd advise people never to do. But I went on the fans forum. I knew I'd been having a bad time, and I went on and just thought, let's see what people are saying. Now, for me, it was the worst thing I ever did, but possibly the best, because I read some of the comments and I was labelled as Jim Gannon's worst ever signing after four league games. So I'm sat in, I'd moved to Stockport at the time, living with Danny Hattersley and another lad from London, Tom Collins. So the three of us are just in this house, and I've read it. And I think I just sat in the room for a couple of hours thinking, you're having one. You need to up your game here, Al. So I knew I'd been struggling anyway. But then to read that and then be branded Jim Gannon's worst ever signing, for me was tough, mentally more than anything.
Yeah, imagine that was reading here.
Yeah, so then after that, I started playing, and to be honest, I started playing well. And then that's when all the managerial changes happened, and I picked up like performances. I was playing well, and then at the end of the season, I picked up Player of the Year. So after 4 games, I was Jim Gannon's worst ever signing. Come the end of the season, the fans voted me the best player of the season. So for me, it's everything.
It's a great example of the resilience needed in football. There's times when it goes really well for you, and there's times where you probably find it a little bit harder how you respond. And I go back to what I said earlier about your temperament and how you handle things. That's probably just another example of that, really. So what came next then?
So when I'd said that this guy had brought in all these loan signings, one of them was Kieran Charnock, who was a centre-half who'd been at Fleetwood. And at the time, we had a few good centre-mids, and I'd been playing. And he rung me when the season ended, like a couple of days after the season. And he was like, Alex, I hope you don't mind. I've put your name in at Morecambe. And I was like, what do you mean? Morecambe are in like League 2, and we've just got relegated from the conference. And he was like, no, like the manager rung me asking me about a centre mid at Stockport. And I said, no, if you're taking a centre mid, you want to take Alex Kenyon. So for me, the work I do on the pitch is seen by centre halves, because I sort of I help them, I do their job. So for him, he'd seen me doing the job in front of him, and he's then spoke to the managers, rung him and said, oh, we're looking at such and such from Stockport. And he went, no, don't sign them. If you're signing anyone, sign Alex. So I then got a phone call from Jim Bentley, the manager at Morecambe. Like, hi, Alex. This, that, the other. You've come up on the radar. I've spoke to Kieran Charnock. He's spoke highly of you, and we want to get you in. And I was a bit like, so you're a Football League club? Like, this is what I've dreamt of. I've wanted to play in the Football League. I've been working hard for it. And now I'm 20, turning 21, and it might actually happen. Because over the years, I've had a lot of people tell me it won't happen. You won't be a professional footballer, this, that, the other. I think I got labelled a pub footballer by a couple of the staff members that don't work there anymore. Not naming names, Walshy. But it was, I'd had it all. I'd had people tell me I'll never make it. You're too small. You're not good enough. What are you going to do when you stop? Like when it doesn't happen. So for me, that phone call was a bit like, nice. I've got a chance here. So going there, went there and met the manager, and honestly can't speak highly enough of him. He was unbelievable for me. He took me in, and I'm going there thinking, right, I'm not really going to play. I'm going to be reserves. I'm going to have to work my way in. I went in, and he had a shirt in front of him, number 4 Kenyon. I was thinking, you're giving me the number 4 shirt? Like, I'm coming here and I'm signing straight away. I'm getting the number 4 shirt. Like, for me, anyone in the 1 to 11, you've smashed it. Like, you're not going to play every week, but you're in your starting 11. So he was just went, yeah, you're going to wear number 4. And I was like, right then, I like that. So for me, that was a confidence booster. And then went into pre-season there, played a few games, and I didn't start the season like I didn't think I would. But then it was... Yeah, there was Stuart Drummond who'd played X amount of games for the club, ridiculously experienced, been around. So he was playing ahead of me, which I couldn't argue with at the time because I'd only just signed. And for me, I was a 21-year-old lad. And I was like, this is what I've dreamt of doing. So you can't come in and expect to start straight away. You've just got to take your chance when it comes. And I was coming on as a sub a few times to see games out or try and help defend at times. And for me, probably my start came just after the TV game against Wolves, which was an unbelievable experience. So I've gone into the team. We're on Sky for the first time ever, so I'm on TV. We've got Wolves in the cup. I come on as a sub, and then Ryan Williams takes his free kick like Cristiano Ronaldo, fires it into the top corner, and I'm literally stood behind him as he hits it. And then we just ran to the corner flag. Everyone's going crazy. We beat Wolves 1-0, which was unbelievable. And in the next round, we then got Newcastle at home again, on Sky again. Before the Newcastle,
I remember watching the game,
yeah, before the Newcastle game, I'd been starting. So I was thinking, right, I could start. But then it came to the day of the Newcastle game. The manager pulled me in the change room, said, Alex, I'm sorry, this game I'm going to go with experience. So he played Stuart Drummond and another, I think it was Andy Wright might have started that day. Flemo. So Andy Fleming. So them two started because they're both older than me. They both got the more experience, which at the time I was annoyed about because it was Newcastle on the TV. But you can't argue because they were more experienced. They had been around a lot longer. It was my first year in Football League. So that was everything's like that in football. You could be up there and then you get come in the office, right? You're down there again. So it's a bit of everything, really. You've got to take it all in.
So how long have you been there now? How many seasons?
This was the end of my 7th.
7th season. So you've talked about a couple there already. What other highlights have you got? Obviously, the big one I remember in more recent years was the staying up on the last day of the season. I can imagine that was quite a good experience. Is there any others in there? Tell us about one, but is there any others that would
Well, I'll start with my other one first. The one for me that is a massive one is when we played Chesterfield at home. Now, Chesterfield were second, I think, at the time. We were down, not bottom, but we were always near the relegation zone, fighting away from it. And we've come to play them, and they're in unbelievable form. So we're playing them at home, and we start the game, concede straight away, concede another, and we're looking at each other going, right, this team's unbelievable. Like, they're walking all over us. So we go into the change room at half-time, 3-0 down, and the manager and Jim, the manager at the time, stands at the front and just goes, lads, they're better than us. I can't grumble. They're just a better team than us. You're all trying hard. just go out there and just see what you can do. Now, for me, I'd never experienced a team talk like that. If you're 3-0 down, you're usually getting like told off, or like, you're coming off, I'm making 3 changes. That's not good enough, that performance. Something along them lines. But he literally said, look, you're all trying your hardest. I can't fault yous. They're just really good. So we went out in the second half. We scored. We scored again. And it made it 3-3. And I was like, at that moment, all I could think of, we're winning this game. So we get the ball. I get the ball on the halfway line, play a ball out wide to Jack Sampson. He takes a touch, crosses it in, and Podrick Hammond diving headers it bottom corner. And you can just see me. I've run from the halfway line, and as he heads it in, I just run off like this into the fans. I didn't go celebrate with the lads. I was in the fans and everything. Everyone was going crazy.
Play your own direction, did you? Was the pass that good?
I pretended I scored it. I was off. Shearer.
Celebrating your pass.
I've kept it. But no, it was that for me. That was an unbelievable feeling. Just you 3-0 down at half time, and then you win 4-3. So, and it was just, we came back in the changing room and the manager went, see, it was the half-time team talk. I knew what I was doing. But at the time, it wasn't. It was, I don't know what happened. I don't know if Chesterfield just stopped playing or they were having pints at half-time. I don't know what they were doing. But in the second half, we just turned it on and we won 4-3. And then the other one, like you said, the final day, that was a tough season. I think we were about 10 points clear with a few games to go. And we just kept losing, and Barnet kept winning. So every game we'd look at the results straight away because we were losing. We'd look at their result, they'd pick up points, and it was just to be honest, demoralising for the team. It was like, oh no, we're actually getting sucked back in here. We could go. And then never forget, the second to last game of the season was at home, and we lost. And every single player, all 11, just dropped to the floor thinking, we're relegated, we're gone. Like, it was something I'll never forget. I was literally going, oh my God, we could be gone here. So one of the lads on the bench came out and picked everyone up. Look, there's another game yet. Because it came to it that they needed to win by 2 and we just needed to lose, and they'd go up on goal. They'd stay up on goal difference and we'd go down. So the pressure was on, yeah. So we finished that game. We trained for the week. Good week. Trained at Wigan's training ground on the Friday, which unbelievable experience. Like, then we went to Coventry. It was on the last game of the season, and I got the dreaded, "Al, come and have a chat." So I got dropped for the game. Now looking back, was I fuming? Yeah. Will I still be fuming now? Yeah. But it was something that I could just, to be honest, sit back and just watch, because it was an experience for me just to be in a position, that position. And I'm sat on the bench and I'm sat next to the keeper coach who's got his phone, checking the Barnet score. But all we needed to do was not lose. All Coventry needed to do was not lose, and they'd have been in the playoffs. So, to be honest, it had 0-0 all over it. But they'd had a go in the first. They'd had a go in the first half. They started like peppering the goal, and Baz was unbelievable on the day. The goalkeeper, like, he made a few saves, and then it got to like 25 minutes to go, and the manager turned to me and, "Alex, coming on?" And I just turned to the keeper coach and went, "Go on." Barnet were 2-0 up, or 1-0 up at the time, and I was like, "Oh no." So I've run onto the pitch and everyone's gone, "How are Barnet getting on?" And, "Oh, I don't know, I didn't check." So, and I was like, I don't want them to start panicking.
Yeah.
But then
one goal for Coventry would have obviously changed everything, wouldn't it?
Yeah, massively. So I didn't want it to change how the lads, because to stay at 0-0, the lads have done brilliantly. And I've come on, and the captain was playing next to me, Michael Rose, at the time, and he's just, as I've ran past me, he's grabbed me and gone, "Tell me, what is the score?" And I went, "The 1-0 up," and just ran off. So he was like, he then was geeing everyone, going, "Oh, come on, we're doing well, keep going." And he just wanted to know the score, not to tell anyone else, just to try and solidify us, to get us over the line. And in the end, I think it went on Sky Sports, there was a passage where our right back and our centre half passed it to each other, I think 10 times. So Coventry completely dropped off. We completely dropped off. And I think it was just them two just kept passing the ball to each other. Now, it's at the time I was buzzing because I was just thinking, they're not scoring if we've got it, and we're not scoring if we just keep it. Like, that's fine. And then obviously we tried to take it up the pitch a little bit because they then started to press a little. So we then lost it. So we sat back and let them have it for a little bit. But when that full-time whistle went, honestly, it was unbelievable feeling. Usually at the end of the game, you shake everyone's hand. There was none of that. Because Coventry were buzzing because they got in the playoffs, and in the end, they went up through the playoffs. So for them, it worked out even better. So all their fans piled onto the pitch. Our fans didn't pile onto the pitch, but we all ran over to them and were jumping in the crowd and jumping up and down. It felt like we were going up. Obviously, we weren't, and we'd only just stayed up. But we'd stayed up by a point. But at the time, it was just an unbelievable feeling.
Those, I suppose, listen, they're experiences that you'll probably, hopefully, never have again.
Yeah.
But listen, whether you win something or you achieve something, obviously the feelings and the experiences are there to be seen, really. But some really good stories there.
Yeah.
In terms of the bigger picture, then, as you sort of draw to a sort of conclusion, then, obviously, you've been somebody that's come through the process and gone out at the end and evolved and all that kind of stuff. So, what advice would you give to any 16-year-old in trying to pursue a football career? What advice would you give them?
For me, any advice to someone who's even thinking about going to Myerscough, do it. For me, the best thing that ever happened to me, because if I'd gone to Myerscough College, would I have had the pathway to Chorley? No. Would I have then had the pathway to Lancaster? No. Stockport? No. So would I be where I am now? Possibly not. Probably not. So for me, the pathways that the college gave me and the experiences the college gave me, for me, unbelievable. I couldn't thank the college enough. Now, another for me is never give up. If you believe in yourself, don't be cocky about it. Don't be arrogant. But if you believe that you can be there, then show people that you can be there. Do the extra that people want from you. Do the stuff that you can't do. Work on it. So for me, it was getting up and down the pitch. So I've always not struggled with it, but it's something I'm always trying to work on, just so I can be like, look, I can do it now, or I am doing it. So for me, it's little things. It's not a massive thing. It's more little things that work on yourself.
Good. No, it's obviously some really good advice. That obviously, I appreciate your time and sharing your experiences and stories, and hopefully it can allow some of the people that have listened and potential students for next year to get a bit more of an idea of what Myerscough is about, how we try and support players in terms of developing on the pitch, which obviously we talked about today, and obviously developing off the pitch as well. But obviously it helps and supports you in progressing from there. So the last couple of questions there. What's life after football going to look like for you?
Well, like you can see on my head, I've got a little logo. Now I've started my own coaching company, to be honest, just a little bit on the side. AK for you, it's just I've been doing one-to-one coaching, but now in lockdown, I've not been able to do that. So I've been setting challenges for the week for people to do. I've started doing Zoom training sessions just to get a few people on the screen and be like, yeah, you're doing that right. Or if you try this will happen. So for me, I want, in the long run, I want to be a manager. And I've said that all along. I'd like to be a manager. So hopefully in time I can be, but to start with, I've just started this company and I'm trying to get myself up and running with that, really.
I suppose the future is probably where you're going to use more of the academic stuff you did at college. So obviously doing your sport coaching degree, and within that you do modules about business and all that kind of stuff. So I've seen some of the stuff that you've put online on Instagram and Twitter and that kind of stuff. So for anybody that's listening, what do they need to follow on Instagram?
AK for you coaching.
AK for you coaching. So it'll give you some training ideas, some challenges. There's obviously Zoom stuff that you can follow. So a great opportunity to, well, basically be coached by a professional footballer. And then obviously, if you could obviously move into management and obviously pursue that as a career, that'd be great as well. Obviously, Myerscough is obviously really proud of obviously what you've gone and done since leaving college, and obviously we'll always support you in anything that we can do, really. So I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Some stories really interesting to listen to. And obviously stay healthy, look after your family and all that kind of stuff, and we will see you soon. So thanks very much, Al. Appreciate that.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks.
See you after.